Everybody, welcome back. I'm experimenting with a YouTube channel, tentatively called The Pinch. That's what most people seem to like, so I'm playing with that idea. And today I wanted to talk a little bit about a paper, a pamphlet, a manifesto, in a sense, written by Martin Kirk for the nonprofit therules.org. The Rules is an amazing organization that seeks to address economic inequality, particularly in the global south. They've had a number of extraordinary campaigns raising attention to how the City of London acts as a tax haven for the super rich, bringing attention to World Bank policies in the developing world, in Nairobi and so on. So they're an amazing organization. And One Party Planet is their new pamphlet. You can get it at therules.org. And it's essentially an analysis of how power is functioning in our world today and what we can think about it, potentially do about it. So the basic idea is that it's not like a total conspiracy in a kind of James Bond or paranoid sense, but there is a kind of intermeshing of powerful interests at the top who have kind of taken control over the global scenario. And whether it's India or China or the U.S., what the One Party Planet argues is it's really these same forces, which they kind of define under the rubric of neoliberalism, are running the show. And in a sense, these new power elite are brokering secret deals, trade deals behind closed doors and so on, which take more and more power out of the hands of nation-state governments and give them to corporations and the financial elite. You can educate yourself about these kind of deals that are happening at therules.org. Martin writes for The Rules, out of fashion are global frameworks agreed between nation states and ideas of universal justice, and in fashion are public-private partnerships and regional agreements of the willing. Out goes dialogue between competing ideologies, and in are multi-stakeholder processes with the invisible ideology already baked in. And that ideology is this kind of elitist neoliberalism that has a set of beliefs connected to it. And among those beliefs, the ideology that is kind of propelling our global civilization in a sense towards catastrophe, both socially and ecologically, is the belief that all material growth is good. And the belief that competition between self-interested parties is the only realistic way of ordering society. So we can see now that this ideology, these beliefs that power the neoliberal system are having extremely negative, increasingly negative consequences as we move towards the end of our resources and so on, and the dangers of extinction, species extinction, and runaway climate change in particular. In the One Party Planet, Kirk writes, as for climate change, the failure to agree on a global deal is proof positive that these elites share a belief that is deeper than politics, that is philosophical and moral, and that has economic growth through the perpetual competition of the self-interested as the unchallenged priority. Simply put, a global deal requiring action from all would introduce a prohibitively unstable element into a system that is carefully balancing on a foundation of savage competitiveness. It requires thinking beyond economic self-interest, so it can get no purchase in a system that recognizes only economic value and lionizes self-interest. So it's a very good, very clear paper, kind of maybe written a little bit for kind of the more intellectual side of the street. In fact, at some point in the paper, they argue that it is kind of intellectuals and academics who maybe don't seem to have a great deal of influence, but they're the ones who can fathom like a new thought stream, a new ideology, and begin to put together an alternative construct. But at the moment, part of the problem with the neoliberal consensus and its agenda is there isn't a firmly defined alternative in the world. And we see that alternative coming together through these global movements, through ideas around alternative economics, social justice, ecological sustainability, or let's say resiliency, but it hasn't been as firmly stated as it needs to be. Though there are definitely some great attempts and examples, one of them being the Earth Charter, which you can look up online as a set of principles that the global community could potentially agree upon. So what they noted in One Party Planet is that there's a lack of tension in our current system. The mainstream media, which is entirely owned by a handful of corporations, is really devised to support this neoliberal consensus. What we really would need is to create a sort of tension in the debate that can only be created between opposing poles to spark the brightest minds to what can be. It is only when genuine tension exists that true progress is made. So we need something of a polar opposite to neoliberalism to take hold in the public imagination and be seen as credible, hopeful, and frankly more logical. So I would say that's been some of my work over the last years, has sought to do that kind of almost surprisingly unintentionally. I mean, I wrote a couple books, Breaking Open the Head, that was about psychedelic shamanism, and visited tribal cultures around the world. I wrote a book called 2012, The Return of Quetzalcoatl, that looked at indigenous knowledge and indigenous prophecies around this time as one of intense transformation, potentially a metamorphosis in human civilization, leading from one state of being, one form of consciousness, to another one. As a matter of fact, the more that I think about that book, which came out in 2006, the more I realize how prescient it is. And of course, it's my book, but I would recommend that anybody who hasn't checked it out, give it a look or a read. Because, yeah, if we look at all of these really intense cofactors coming to bear right now, it seems that it's beyond economics, it's beyond ideology. It really has to be something like the nonlinear dynamics of system theory, where we have to go through a metamorphosis of transmutation from one state of being, one realization of what it means to be human, to be to be here in society, to something quite different, where we recognize ourselves as kind of conscious agents of maybe the biosphere itself, or aspects of a planetary superorganism that's in a rapid evolution. So Martin in this pamphlet looks at climate change and how we're really on totally aiming at a more than 3 degrees Celsius temperature rise now in this century, and how that could be just extremely devastating, because we've now learned, he doesn't really go into this in the piece, but we've learned about these giant deposits of methane under the Arctic, that if they were to start releasing in large quantities, could lead to a much faster and warmer climate. So we're really in this very limited timescale where enough of us somehow need to figure out what's happening and make a jump together to a cooperative infrastructure that allows us to bring about a transmutation of human society and human consciousness for everybody's benefit. And if we accomplish this, I think it's very much in alignment with all these indigenous cultures, from the Hopi to the Maya to the Aztecs to what the Hindu traditions talk about. It's a kind of shift from one, or you could say one world or one form of consciousness to another one. So anyway, it's Thanksgiving today. This is meant to be a short little outburst. Hope you have a beautiful holiday, and let's keep thinking together about what's to come.